Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Lisa with Lisa's Faith and Budget Planning channel. I'm here to do another budget video today, and I'm excited to be here because this is something completely new to me and it's been a lot of trial and error to figure out. But I wanted to show how my weekly budget or weekly check-ins for a budget would work in my weekly check-in sheets. So I have weekly check-in sheets that I sell at my Etsy store, and all the sheets you see here are a part of my Etsy store. It's called Lisa's Faith Budget Plan, and yeah, here it is. So the way I know most budgeters on YouTube budget a weekly check-in is they use a calendar to track their expenses, and they do it on a calendar. And this is just my note reminding me what I'm trying to say here. So daily expense tracking on the calendar. I normally do not do this. I budget completely different than a weekly check-in. I budget paycheck to paycheck. But in this case, I wanted to figure out how can I explain how to use my budget sheets from my Etsy store. So if you decided to purchase, how to do a weekly check-in. And I think I finally came up with a way. I hope so. It's been a lot of struggle and trial and error, but I think I've got it figured out. So, like I said before, most budgeters use a calendar for their expense tracking for their spending, daily expenses spending here on the calendar. I typically only use, just real quick, if you've been on my channel before, you know this, monthly bill tracking on the calendar. But the best thing about having digital downloadable budget sheets is you can print as many calendars as you want for whatever it is you want to track. So whether you're doing monthly bill tracking or you're doing expense tracking, it doesn't matter. You've got the room to do it, and you don't have to do it on the same calendar. So here we go. What I'm going to do and what I discovered was I needed to figure out, the first thing I needed to figure out, and like I said, this is my first time weekly check-in type of budgeting, is I had to find out, how am I going to weekly budget? Am I going to start on specific dates? Am I going to, kind of not follow here's the full weeks and then just make my dollar stretch on the extra days? Or am I going from one day to the next and it'd be like from a Friday to a Thursday? And originally I thought about doing the Friday to the Thursday, but when I did that, it left me not enough money to budget weekly based on how I typically spend. So I had to go back to the drawing board and I went, okay, let's take a deep breath. Nobody wants to see negative numbers every week. And so what I decided to do was scratch doing, you get paid, budget for the week. And so mine would be Friday pays and Thursday weekly check-ins. So I decided not to do that. I decided to go, okay, I'm not having enough money every pay week or every week in the month, because that ended up giving me 5 weeks. I needed maybe 4 weeks. So here we go. I decided that what would work best for me is just to count the 31st through the 8th as a full week. And I just have to stretch my dollars for a couple of days and count that 8th. And then the 9th through the 15th, and then the 16th through the 22nd, the 23rd through the 31st, and stretch my dollars a couple of days here. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do 4 times 4 check-ins to cover all my weeks. So here's my weekly check-in. And when I did it for the 4, here we go. And actually, now that I think about it, I may not have to include this because this could be included in the September budget, now that I think about it. But I've already got it written down, so I'm going to leave it right there. Because my husband's pays come on around or just before the 1st of the month, it always makes sense for me to start afresh on the 1st. So that's why I'm struggling here. A lot of weekly check-ins are not so streamlined where the first works. It's one of those things where you have a little bit in one month, a little bit in the next month. So I think that's why the weekly check-in is a big struggle for me. But if it's not something that's a struggle for you and it makes sense, then I highly recommend it. And these are excellent budget sheets to use that in. So what I did was I broke it down into 4 weeks and then stretched my money for the 2 days that I considered on each end. And then I came up with how much my spending categories are in my areas I want to track. So I have $1,000 for the entire month of August that I want to spend, or that I could spend. Of course I want to spend, but no, that I could spend. I don't have to spend all of it. Divided by 4, that's what I budgeted for the week. Same with the restaurants, miscellaneous, and gasoline. I have those numbers over here. This is how I came about those numbers. That's what I budgeted. So let's go through and let me grab my calculator here. Got it way, way over here. All right, turn that on. And we're going to add, and I know I've already checked them off, but we'll do it again, my groceries for the 31st through the 8th. And oops, I forgot to highlight. I'm using a highlighter method right next to these stickers in order to show what each category is, so that I know what I'm looking at when I do my tracking. So I need to look for everything that's pink. So I have Food Lion here, which is 56.66. And then I have another Food Lion, which is 56.31. And then I have Dollar General here. It's just around the corner from my house, and I needed 1 or 2 items, and I didn't want to go to a big grocery store. So that's $7.31. Let's see, what else did I get? Walmart here. So I mentioned this in other videos before. This is $196.92. Oops. Did not use a decimal point. And there you go, 92. Enter. Okay, so that's what my spending is. So yes, my husband got paid on this day, but I waited. I didn't want to go on Friday because of the rain that was coming, and how miserable it would have been to buy groceries that day and come in and out of the rain. So I bought it on Thursday before payday, but we hadn't enough in the buffer to do that, so that was not a problem. So let's go to our weekly check-in. So I'm going to weekly check in how much we spent, and as you're going to see, we're going to be way over for the week, which is okay. I know it's a lot, but usually the beginning of the month I do a big spend just to get caught up from the previous month. So that's why that, I'm going to leave that like that. So, I don't know what I'm talking about. I need to do balance. So let's figure out how much I overspent. Let's see. We have $250, and we're going to subtract the $317.20, and that gives us a negative of $67.20. Okay. Now here we have $162. Let's see how much eating out, and I know we're going to go over budget in that as well because of how much we spent on Saturday. Most of this is going to be over budget. And it's probably not a good idea to compare my budget to the way we spend, because I actually use a different budgeting method with paycheck to paycheck budgeting, and the numbers are larger, allowing me more room for spending. But that's okay. We're just doing a weekly check-in, so it's going to look a little different. So here we go. We have the Papa John's, 78, plus the 27.13, plus Taco Bell, plus Chick-fil-A. We really went all out that night. We normally don't spend that much on Chick-fil-A. Then we were at the zoo and we wanted snacks, so it was $10.25, and then Arby's was $18.38, and then Papa John's again, $40.97, and then we had an extravagant dinner, anniversary dinner. And a lot, we spent a lot of money. We spent a lot of money, but we do not have plans to spend money this week on going out until Friday. So yeah, so here we go. I was hoping this would work better, but it's not. 62. So don't be discouraged by my numbers. If you are very good at keeping within this kind of budget during a week, even though I'm showing negative numbers, that's not what this example is to show you. What I'm showing you in this example is how to fill out the weekly check-in. My numbers are going to be really skewed because of how I typically budget, which is paycheck to paycheck, and I give myself larger sums of money, and I don't break it down by the week. I just break it down by the pay period. So if you look at my paycheck to paycheck budgeting, I'm not that far over. But when you do it, break it down weekly, I'm extremely over, which is probably why I never weekly check in. But I did want to show how the sheets work. So I have 162.5, and I'm going to subtract the 308.62. And here we go. We are negative 146.12. I'm gonna erase it. That looks funny right there. Oops. My sheets are wet, so that's why it's smeared. It normally does not smear. With this premium paper, it does take a minute for it to dry, but I just pulled it off the printer. So if you're going to work in the sheets and you print them and you use an erasable pen, just give it time to dry, especially if it's premium paper. Alrighty, so let's move on to miscellaneous, which I think we might actually be in budget for, but I'm not sure. Green. Yeah, I only have 2 miscellaneous here. And I'm not going to recheck these off. I just checked them off earlier when I was practicing before I got on camera here. So 63.34 plus the 22.84. What have we got? So I spent 86.18. Finally, under budget. Oh, I'm so excited. 18. But I kind of like doing this weekly check-in to see how my spending patterns are showing up weekly. Do I randomly shop? How do I shop? What am I doing and how am I thinking in my shopping experience? So we have left over $51.32. Great. So I can roll that to the next weekly check-in, which I will show you the new budgeted numbers. Okay, miscellaneous. That was miscellaneous. Gasoline. That's what I'm doing right now. So we had a $26.68 gasoline. And then we had, anything else? Yes, a $40.30 gasoline. So my husband got gas and I got gas. So, alrighty. I went a little bit over budget here, but that's okay. There we go. I was very close on this one. So, 62.50 is what I budgeted for, and I spent 66.98. There you go. So now I am, oops, wrong pen. I like to use red to remind me that I'm over budget and that these are negative numbers. It just makes it stand out more and it makes it easier for budgeting. Doesn't look good and you're not happy with it, but at least you make fewer mistakes when you have it. So now we're going to go into looking at the second week, and we're going to build up the second week now that the first week's over. So let's do a little bit of math. We're going to total up our spending. We know how much we budgeted. We're going to add $317.20 plus the $308.62 plus the 86.18 plus the 66.98. And okay, so we spent $778.98. Now, the way this works, if I go down, I'm gonna start with the what I had left over. 32 minus 67.20 minus 146.12 minus 448. This is showing me negative, we'll make a quick note of that before I commit to writing it down, negative 166.48. That's what it should be. Let's do the math over here. I have 612.50 minus 778.98. I think I did my math wrong. No, I didn't. Negative 166.48. So, yep, they equal the same. And I did write this out correctly. Yay. Alrighty. So now that I see my numbers, and now that I know I went over $166.48 over budget for the week on what I intended to spend, I can look at it and go, okay, let's move on to the next week. And how do I adjust for these amounts? Because I specifically want to stay within my $1,000 amount. So how I would do that is I would take what I budget and I would subtract the negative balance, and then I'll have what's left over for the next week. And that way it keeps me within that $1,000 box for what I intended to spend. So let me write out real quick over here my categories. Okay, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the budget numbers, and they're the same every week, and then I'm going to subtract out and get a total. That's why the box is kind of long for me, because of how I want to do the math. So I'm going to take the 250 and I'm going to subtract the 67.20, and so 250 minus the 67.20, and I get a new budget amount of $182.80. That's what I'm hoping to stick with for the week. We'll see what happens. I'm already kind of 115 in the hole there, so we'll see if I can keep from spending any more grocery household for the rest of the week. Let's go ahead and finish the rest of these, and I will be right back. Okay, I am back. So here we go. So I know I wrote it out in the budgeted column, and you don't have to. I just wrote it out for demonstration. If you want to do the math and take your budget amount and subtract off to the side, and then just put your new budget amount, you can do that as well. I just wanted to write it out so you could see how the math really worked and where I got my totals from. So here I have 182.8 for a grocery household. I have $16.38 for restaurant. Yeah, that's not going to be enough, but that's okay. 188.82 for miscellaneous, and 58.02 for gasoline. So that gives me a total of $446.02 budget amount for my spending categories for the week of the 9th through the 15th. And that is starting this week. And as you can see, I've already spent $115.56. Sorry about that. So as you can see, I've already spent $115.56 right here for my groceries. So that's just going to wipe out my grocery. I have 182, and that doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room left for the rest of the week, but I have most of what I need after spending, what is it, 196 here and then 115 here. Groceries are getting expensive. Meats are really expensive, and it's hard to keep it within the budget. And then I stocked up on some items I didn't expect to stock up on. And cleaning supplies, I actually had Clorox wipes at my grocery store with the ones that kill the virus. And I'm going, oh, wow, that never happens. So I bought a couple of those. You can only buy so many anyway. And then I bought some hand sanitizer I wasn't expecting, and that's not cheap either. Those little bottles used to be really cheap, and they're not cheap anymore. So I'm stocking up. I'm willing to spend a little bit of extra just to have it on hand, but it's just not like it used to be. And it's very hard to stay within the budgets anymore. So, but that's just how life is right now. This COVID-19 thing has really got things crazy. So this is how I would weekly check in, and this is how I would come up with, I put my transactions on a calendar. You can do something else, and this is what I actually use. It's called a transaction log. This is my grocery household transaction log. The numbers are going to look different on here because I actually budget completely different here than I do for the weekly, but you can use a transaction log and set up the budget similar if you don't want to use a calendar. But a lot of YouTube channels do use the calendar and track their expenses for their weekly check-in on a calendar. They usually color code what expense goes to what, which is why I use the highlighter, because I didn't have enough stickers to do all 4 categories. I just used one sticker type and then highlighted it with the highlighter next to it to distinguish the different colors that I color coded over here. And then I checked it off, and there's a couple I didn't check off here for my weekly check-in. And then that's how I did the totals, and this is how I came up with the number. So going forward, I probably won't write the math out. I will probably just put the number down, and you'll see me calculate it out. And I will make those decisions. I'll decide if I want to add the 30th and 31st at the end of this time period. I may not. I may just add it to next month, but we'll have to wait and see. And I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to weekly check-in, but I am actually considering just doing it for the month of August and have that as my example to show you how to use my weekly check-in sheets. It is a great way of checking in on what you're spending. And if you're so I hope this weekly check-in made sense to you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and that this month of weekly check-in helps you understand why it's important to check in. And if this is a style of budgeting that works for you, I have the sheets available, and you can use these to track your spending. But I did want to show how my weekly check-in worked, and then how you could possibly use a calendar to go along with it. Once you purchase the calendar, you can use it for multiple things. You can use it for a weekly check-in for your budget, or you can use it like I do, where I track my monthly expenses. You could just use it as a personal calendar just to write things down on your personal information. It has nothing to do with budgeting. It's very versatile, it's very flexible, and that's what I love about my personal budget sheets. They can work for many different things. Even though they're mostly directed for budgeting, the calendars are awesome. I even have a Monday start instead of a Sunday start if you wanted that instead. And yeah, so these are my budget sheets. So here we go. I'm gonna go back to, oops, not far enough. There we go. So this is the calendar I use to list my expenses, and this is the weekly check-in. And I think it turned out really well. And I'm excited to see what goes on after this point, and maybe this will help me narrow down my spending a little more so I don't overspend every week, and maybe focus my spending a little bit better, especially my grocery household. I just kind of randomly shop when I know I'm out of something, and then sometimes that causes me to overspend. So yeah, I'm gonna have to see if that can help me with that. So I hope you have an amazing, blessed day, and I will see you next time. Bye.